Gene for 33 years next month. We have 3 grown children, 2 little grandsons. And a lot of people also know me for my public service career. Prescott City Council and State Board of Education, the state legislature, President of the Senate, and now Secretary of State. But I think it's even more important to know that I have worked in the private sector for nearly 30 years. We were fortunate to have deep roots here in Prescott. Grandma and Grandpa's phone number was 49. That was their home, and the business, the gas station, was 71. And after decades of running the business, my parents bought the business in the 60s, I think it was. I came to work in the mid-80s and ran a family business. It's important, I believe, for our governor to understand 3 critical things. How does the private sector work? How does local government work? And how does state government work? Now, all of us have some experience in 1 or 2 of those. Somehow, I think I'm the one that has all 3. And all 3 are important, because the most important thing we need to do in Arizona is grow our economy. Economic development is going to be job 1, and I think you'll hear that from just about any of us. And even though we've made a lot of progress in getting the budget back into near balance, and digging out of a hole that Governor Napolitano left us a few years ago, we still have a ways to go. The state budget has not been balanced without using accounting tricks and gimmicks or temporary tax increases since 2007, when Jim Wires was the Speaker of the House and I was President of the Senate, and we worked hard to fight against Governor Napolitano to make sure that we were spending less than we brought in. So we'll talk about all those issues. It's an honor to be in your presence and be here in my hometown. Ken Bennett, I look forward to the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Arizona Treasurer Doug Ducey.
Hi, Billy. Thanks for having me. I've spoken in front of a lot of half-full rooms, but never in Yavapai County. Thanks for the great turnout. My name is Doug Ducey. I was born in Toledo, Ohio. My father was a cop. I'm a product of the Midwest and working class. The last political office I held before this one was I was homeroom representative in 5th grade at Blessed Sacrament Grade School in Toledo. My folks split up my junior year of high school, and my mom moved west. I had a college counselor who pointed at a map and said college is affordable there, and there's a lot of opportunity. I packed up my Datsun B210 with everything I owned and drove from Toledo to Tempe. It was quite an adventure. I know I share a similarity with many people in the room. How many of you were born somewhere other than the state of Arizona? I think that's a real opportunity for our state to take ownership of our direction. I've had the opportunity to hire a lot of exceptional people in my career, and I think the best way to tell what somebody's going to do going forward is to look at what they've done going backwards. I've been married 24 years to my wife Angela, and we have 3 sons. My company was Cold Stone Creamery, the ice cream concept. We built it to 1,440 ice cream stores in all 50 states, and it started right here in Arizona. I ran for state treasurer at a time when the Tea Party was on the rise and our state budget was being described as bankrupt and insolvent. And today we have money in the bank and a record high in our permanent land endowment trust fund. And remember Proposition 204. It was a $1 billion permanent sales tax increase that was on the ballot. Somebody up here stood against it, and it lost in every county in the state, and your taxes actually went down on July 1st. Thanks for having me.
Our next candidate is Christine Jones.
Hi. When Arizona was seeking status as a state, the Constitutional Convention opened each day with a prayer. by the Reverend Seaborn Crutchfield. It's a great name. My favorite prayer was on day 2, and it says in part, "We pray thee, O Lord, that this body of men will adopt such a constitution that it will represent all of the citizens of the state of Arizona, and that it will grant unto Arizona statehood, and that Arizona may join the grand galaxy of states in these United States, and that Arizona may be the brightest star in the Union." And I thought, how amazing is it that a prayer from 1910 can sum up the reasons I'm running for governor in 2014. I'm an unapologetic conservative, a fierce defender of the Constitution, and I believe that Arizona can be the brightest star in the Union, and that's why I'm running for governor. And in fact, I have a plan to make it so. After years of moving around as a family, my husband, who's a retired colonel, the adorable one down here, he and I settled in Arizona because we knew when we came here we had found home. That was in the 90s. In 2001, I got recruited to go to a little startup technology company with the crazy name GoDaddy. When I joined GoDaddy, there were just a few dozen employees, but as executive vice president, I worked and we grew from just a few dozen to thousands. We were providing technology to millions of small businesses and entrepreneurs all over the world. I am proud of GoDaddy. It is a great Arizona success story, but here's why. At GoDaddy, we fought, despite the government's best efforts to make us fail, against roadblocks that the government stood up. Those are things that we should remove, and that's one of the reasons I'm running for governor. I thank you for being here. Thank you for filling the room. I'm so proud of the Republican women, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Alice Lukasik.
I'm Alice Lukasik, a Republican candidate for the office of governor. I am a scientist in atmospheric sciences. I'm a researcher in medical sciences. I am an Arizonan for Arizona. There are problems that, if you haven't seen since 2012, that have erupted all over the state. They can't be ignored. There are causes to this that can be addressed. Just like any crime anywhere, you don't address it until the crime exists. Crimes exist in Arizona that have to be addressed. I am frightfully conscious of it, frightfully conscious of the effects it could have, and someone in the populations of the world have come down 2 billion in the past 10 years. The 2010 census report indicates that there is someone who has designs on moving in 7.4 million people into the Yavapai County in the next 10 years. That's greater than the population of Arizona. I cannot imagine where those populations would come from. I could only imagine another housing bust. Real problems for even to be considered. There's nothing to be taken lightly in this moment in Arizona. This is we can say politically conservative, but this is an area where, when I grew up, you watched your water usage, you watched your electric usage, that there are limits to deserts. Deserts mean that there are limits of water, there are limits to the space that we have. That I see agriculture being assaulted. We are nothing without agriculture. Where I see forests being assaulted, we are nothing without our forests. They don't replenish easily. This is a hard climate for there to grow. I have seen places so old that they have not recovered. These are the things that matter to me. Thank you very much.
Our next candidate is State Senator Al Melvin.
Thank you, Billy. As I look around the room and all the wonderful people here, I'm reminded of a campaign event that I attended for Bush Jr. at a big arena in Phoenix. There were thousands of people there, and a couple of busloads of veterans, we came up to support him. And as we were waiting to take our seats, I was looking around at all the people, and I mentioned to some people next to me, am I the only one, or would others agree that Republican women are better looking than Democratic women? And this black veteran standing next to me said, hey, that's why I changed parties. But it's great to be here. I am still in the Senate. This is my 6th year. And I wanted to share some good news with you. In 2009, when I got there, we had inherited a bloated budget from Napolitano at $10.6 billion. It's now $8.6 billion. It's balanced, and all of the family budgets represented here, you know how hard it is to make sure you don't spend more than you take in. But because we did it, good things happened. We went from the bottom 10 to the top 10 of the 50 states in 3 categories. We are #1 in the nation for business startups. And Forbes, yes, Forbes is projecting that we will be #1 this year for job creation. And finally, we went from the bottom 10 to #8 in overall business climate. Good things are happening. We'll talk some more about it during the event. Thank you.
And our final candidate is the Mayor of Mesa, Arizona, Mayor Scott Smith.
Thank you, Billy, and thank you, Al, for absolutely sucking up the best way you possibly can. I'm not even going to try and top that. I'm not going to try. I would like to say thank you so very much for this beautiful, beautiful venue. For you know, when you look at how gorgeous things are, that a bunch of Republican guys didn't put this event together, and we are thankful for that. I spent a lot of time in Prescott growing up. I'm a native Arizonan, 4th generation. Played way too much softball at Ken Lindley Field, but enjoyed every minute of it because it was a lot better than playing softball in August in Mesa. Like a lot of others, I've lived here in Arizona my entire life, but I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to get involved. And I worked as a CPA for many years, a business consultant, and got into the home building construction business. Took a business that literally was on the verge of failure and had maybe 6, 7 employees, and built it into a business that built throughout this state, did almost $200 million in sales, and created thousands of jobs. And when I sold that company, I was inspired by one person to do something different. That was my granddaughter. I've been married 35 years to a lovely woman that I met on a blind date in college, and thank heaven she was blind at the time. When her eyes opened, you know, who knows? She still stuck with me. But I'll tell you, I looked at her and little Scarlett, I said, what is the Mesa at the time that Scarlett's going to grow up in? Is she going to have the same opportunities I had? And as mayor, as I walked around and spoke to a lot of groups like this, I found something very disturbing. I found that our children were leaving. Our grandchildren were leaving because they were finding opportunity elsewhere. And I said, I don't want my kids, and I don't want Scarlett and Skousen and Sutton and Decker and Liam, my 5 grandkids, to have to go to Boulder and Austin and Salt Lake for opportunity. I want them to be able to fulfill all of their dreams, all of their aspirations right here in Arizona. So I was committed at that time to build a better Arizona and to become involved in this. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
I just want to say that we want to be respectful of each other, that we remember the golden rule, and cherish our freedom for civil discourse. And I'm so impressed by all of these candidates. Thank you. Susan Cohen has our first question.
How much private sector experience do you have, and how could that relate to your success as Arizona's governor?
The first question goes to Doug Ducey.
Thank you very much, Billy. I've spent my entire adult life in the private sector. I studied finance at Arizona State University. But before that, I was a busboy at Bob Evans in Toledo, Ohio. My job out of college was with Procter & Gamble, where I was trained in management and marketing. And my company was Cold Stone Creamery, my entrepreneurial pursuit, which I said started right here in Arizona. I want to take that fresh energy and business approach and apply it to our state government. I think we've got a government that's too big, too expensive, tries to do too many things, and does most of them poorly. We're spending $8.8 billion as a state. How many people feel like you're getting a real return on the state spending? If we had that kind of focus group return at Cold Stone Creamery, we'd have never opened our second store. I think we can bring the approach of the private sector and the business community that it understands who the customer is and who we serve, and that's the citizen. And I believe government should exist for a reason, to serve and protect the people. And I'd like to have a government that does a better job of that and that costs less money and is actually effective in what it does. I'll use that business type approach and a new outlook to make our government smaller, but also to make it more responsive to the citizen.
As governor, what would be your strategy to attract well-paying companies to Arizona? What new business opportunities do you recommend for Arizona, and what incentives do you plan to put into place to entice more companies to move here? And that question goes to Christine Jones.
One of the things that we did really well at GoDaddy was growing the business from just a little startup to having thousands of employees. But at some point, we reached critical mass. And we felt like we had kind of depleted all of the engineers in the valleys, so we had to go to other states. And what we learned was that people always wanted to know, what are we going to get if we go to Arizona? So we started to study this carefully, and we said, what is it that would make people want to come here? What would it take for us to create these high-paying jobs to make families want to exist here? And I think the way to take that from the private sector into the government is to say, we have to incentivize people holistically. We have to go to CEOs, look them in the eye and say, Arizona is the wisest choice for you. Arizona is a place to make good jobs because we have a government that's going to get out of your way. We have an educational system with some of the finest models of education anywhere in the country. We're going to repeat those into all of the schools. We have strong conservative values. But importantly, it will not happen, it cannot happen, if the government doesn't give some incentives. Now, as a conservative, this bothers me. So here's the way I've reconciled it as a CPA. The way to do it is you incentivize based on net new revenue. If you create new revenue and you're a company in the state, you get an incentive. If you create new revenue and you're a company outside of the state, you get the same incentive. It strikes me as a way to do it more fairly and to create high-paying jobs and to give people a reason to want to come here. Thank you.
Billy, could I address that? I think it's very important that we attract companies from other states, but I don't think it wise that we give incentives to a bunch of companies to try to come here that we're not doing for the companies that are already here. And so one of the strategies that I think we need to employ is, I think Arizona needs to be the 10th state to eliminate the state income tax. Was I supposed to hold up one of my wild cards before I started? And then what's the yellow light when 15 seconds, it's going quickly. Anyway, so I think we need to be very careful that we don't do for others what we're trying to bring here that we're not willing to do for those that are already here. I'll leave it at that.
We have another wild card right here. Mayor Smith.
Thank you. I think one of the advantages I bring to this is that others can talk about what they might do. I've done it. In Mesa, we brought a small little company, maybe some of you have heard of, called Apple Computer. Big win. First manufacturing plant Apple's invested in over a decade. We've also created hundreds of jobs by keeping companies here who were actually leaving the state. Able Engineering, MD Helicopters. They had 1 foot out the door. The interesting thing is we didn't pay these companies 1 cent to stay here. What we did do is we created the environment, we created the infrastructure to make this happen. I know how to do it because I've done it. This isn't philosophy, this is economic development in action. And we did it by focusing, by creating a plan, by creating a vision, by carrying that out, and it was successful.
Okay, our third question. I'm going to read this. It's kind of lengthy, but then we're going to pull a name. The drought has become even more severe this winter in the American Southwest. What are your proposals for the state's looming water shortage? Explain what you think the water issues are for Yavapai County, especially in light of the lack of state and federal monies filtered down to rural areas.
This question goes to Alice Lukasik.
Water is absolutely precious. There are solutions that have, and it's so unfortunate that, and a bit embarrassing to say that Yavapai's structure has ignored options for a long time. They exist. They need to be connected with options that exist. The environment matters. When we crush environment, we lose weather. So we have to preserve our natural environment. Constitution is based on natural environment. Without natural environment, we don't have water, we don't have air, we don't have resources. When Aspen fire burned, it burned so much oxygen on our planet that Libya went to war. War broke out in places where they don't have their own oxygen supply. It's vital that we preserve our ecology. As we preserve our ecology, we learn to live together. We have to build our wise communities and with consciousness to the environment that we are dependent on. There's maybe 7 to 9 days of oxygen on the planet. If we destroy more trees, if we destroy more environment, every chance of something going bad puts us all at risk. So there are environmental solutions if we choose them.
States without income taxes grow faster than those with income taxes. Revenue volatility is also lower. What specific tax reforms would you support for Arizona? Ken Bennett.
Surprise, surprise. Well, it's very important to understand a couple of things here. A lot of people say sales tax is very volatile and it goes up and down. Sales tax has actually been, over decades, the most stable tax that the state relies on. Now, we have some issues with our tax policy that make our tax revenues go up too fast in the good years and go down too fast in the bad years. And one of those is the volatility of income tax. Income tax has actually been much more volatile over the last few years. But we need, if we eliminate the state income tax and replace it with a low-rate, broad-based sales tax, then something that will happen is very important to our state. When we had a 10% downturn in the economy over the last 5 or 6 years, the state general fund revenue went down by about 1/3. When I left, revenue coming in was about $9.5 billion. At the low point just a couple of years ago, it had dropped all the way to $6.5 billion before they put the temporary sales tax in place. If we adjust the tax so that we have a low-rate, broad-based sales tax, then our tax revenues coming into general government will flow with the economy. Economy goes up by 10%, it goes up 10%. Goes down, it'll go down, but it won't drop by 30%, and then you're faced with all kinds of accounting tricks and gimmicks and things like that. So we can eliminate the state income tax and we can replace that revenue with a low-rate, broad-based sales tax and create more stability in our state revenues.
Alice Lukasik.
Thank you. Energy in the Southwest is produced by the public. It is wholesaled to retailers who sell it to us at an extreme rate. If we sold our own energy to ourselves at a flat rate, we wouldn't need income tax. We would have a constant base of income that wouldn't fluctuate whether or not the economy was good, because we all know the value of having energy to our homes. Sell our own energy to us direct, and we would have an economic base that you would probably get a check every year like Alaska for its oil.
At the federal level, we are all aware that our government has created mandates that have tied the hands of both individuals and businesses alike. Specifically, what would you do as governor to decrease government interference in the private lives and businesses in Arizona?
This question goes to Al Melvin.
Thank you very much. Well, the first thing that comes to mind in this area is a common core with respect to public education. And I have a bill in this legislative session to defund and stop implementing Common Core in the state. It's patterned after Indiana and Texas and other states. We don't need the federal government telling us how to educate our children. Another part of this, you know, we have really failed our young people for several generations in that we've spent more money for public education than any country in the world for over 20 years, but we rank 20th and below in all key categories of math and science, reading and writing. So I am proposing a universal school voucher of about $8,000 per child, where every family will be able to send their child to the school of their choice. True parental choice. And I know we will turn this quickly, and we will then be preparing our youth for very productive lives, but we must keep the feds out of it for sure. Thank you.
Our next question. Name the programs you are committed to eliminating from the state budget. And that goes to Mayor Smith.
Gee. The programs that would eliminate from the state budget. You know, frankly, right now, I don't know exactly which one. I'm very familiar with how the state government operates, how the federal government operates. For the past year, I've had the privilege of serving as president of the United States Conference of Mayors, something that has taken me back to Washington, and believe me, I know the inner workings of the federal government far more than I'd ever want to. On the state level, I think what we need to do is do what we did in Mesa. When we were faced with a $60+ million budget shortfall, what we did is that we didn't just cut, we just didn't eliminate. We took the approach that I had learned in business and had practiced in business, and we gave every department manager a charge. We said, listen, you're going to live on at least 20% less next year, but you're going to maintain the same level of service. Now, even our public safety stepped up and they responded. Because we weren't going to say, we're not going to take just a slash and burn and cut. You're going to do this in an innovative way, you do this in a creative way. The results were amazing. Our police department got creative on how they provide the services, so did our fire department. The results, every year crime has gone down, and now Mesa is at 40-year lows in serious crime. FBI statistics just recently named Mesa as the 3rd safest big city in America. If you give that kind of charge, which is what I would do as governor, to the departments which I control as the chief executive officer, you tell them to be innovative, you support them, you help them, and you demand results. The unwilling and the programs that are not worthwhile will sort of self-eliminate, like they did in the state. We have had experience that works.
Somewhere along the line, Arizona has dissected its agencies. There's currently 19 ADOTs, all with their own fleets of pickups, all with their own ideas, all with their own contracts. There's absolutely no control over agencies, boards, and departments. There are actually 3 governments in the United States. There's the U.S. government, there's state government, and there's tribal government. There are city managers, there's city organizations. It's not a government that can tax. It cannot ask you for money. If they exist, it exists as service to the community. There's places where money is going where it should not go. There are people wielding authority that don't have constitutional authority. Things are out of control here. Constitution, Arizona Constitution, and the constituency will set it straight.
We have another Bob Hart.
Yes, I wanted to comment a little bit about the feds and the state. One, I firmly believe that we must stop Medicaid expansion in Arizona. By adding 300,000 to the indigent health care rolls, it's the biggest threat to our economic future. We've got to stop it. The Goldwater Institute is suing to stop it. 36 conservative legislators, including me, have added our names to that lawsuit, so we need to stop it. Another area that is big to me is federal lands. I encourage people to look at the American Lands Council. We want to go after the U.S. Forest Service and BLM land to convert it to state land.
It has to do with the border security. 1/4 of our questions submitted by our members address the issues regarding our border with Mexico. We still do not have answers on Fast and Furious. The killer of Brian Terry has not been brought to justice. How would you open a dialogue with the federal government and get them to pursue the drug war on our border? And please tell us how that fence will get built and with what financial resources.
And this question goes to Scott Smith.
Well, first of all, good luck in getting Eric Holder to answer any question. You know, it's really funny, when I started going to Washington as part of the U.S. conference, Eric Holder would always show up at our meetings. And for some funny reason, after Fast and Furious and, well, Jack lost track of all the screw-ups and scandals, he quit coming. And the amazing thing was, not only did the Republican mayors welcome that, the Democratic mayors welcomed that too. You know, there's no doubt that this administration is really good at dodging and skipping, and they can't seem to find the answer to Benghazi. They can't find the answer to Fast and Furious. My gosh, they can find the answer to a lot of other insignificant things. The border security is of tantamount importance, because for us to have any kind of immigration reform, we as people have to have the confidence that that border is secure. That is essential, that is necessary, and nothing will happen unless we have that. I think this is a national issue, and I think it's unfair that Arizona has borne an unfair and a disproportionate burden of the immigration problem. I have stood before my fellow mayors and tried to explain to them why our experience with immigration is so different than theirs. In many parts of the country, immigration is still a novelty. Illegal immigration is a novelty. It's not in Arizona. We live it, we know it, but we understand that this requires national resources, because this is a national problem. They built the fence in other areas, and they left our border unsecure. We now have the funnel effect of people coming to our thing. That is unfair for us, and it's a situation that, as governor, I will fight every day with Washington and the rest of the country to make border security tantamount, trustworthy, and so we can have confidence that our borders are secure.
We have a Bob that's in place. Senator Miller.
Border security is so critical. Despite what even some members of our congressional delegation say, the border is leaking like a sieve. Trust me, I know it. I've been to Cochise County. I've talked to the ranchers. And both parties are to blame. The Democrats look at them as additional Democratic voters. Some Republicans, some chambers of commerce look at it as cheap labor. What we need, I believe, is a retired Army or Marine Corps general to head up Homeland Security, another one to head up the Border Patrol. We don't need more agents. We don't need more money. They need to be deployed properly. And the feds are not going to help us, and we can fix it ourselves, actually.